What's up, YouTube family? It's your man, White Wolf, and welcome back to another exciting training session. Today, we're going to be doing emotional development, discussing how to overcome lies and illusions. So, let's go ahead and dive into this exciting session. So, we'll go ahead and break this entire discussion down into two main segments. The first segment, we're going to be discussing lies, or lying, or lied. If you type in the definition of lie into the Google search, you come up with answers along these lines: misrepresentation of one or more facts, a false statement made with a deliberate intent to deceive, an intentional untruth, deliberately deviating from the truth, speaking falsely. So, with any word that you start to look up, you'll come up with variations in definition. What we really want to start doing is creating and solidifying a clear understanding in how we are using and defining these words, all of our words. This is going to help us when we're communicating with each other, that people use words differently. We all can use the same word in a different context and meaning different things. This is why we really want to start just getting very clear in what is it we're really trying to say when we're using these words. So in this context, when we're using lie, I want to solidify the definition of a false statement made with the deliberate intent to deceive or deviate from the truth. I think this really covers lie in a very much more direct way. Because when we start talking about these words of lie, lying has to do with communication. If we start looking at the difference between deceit and lie, well, the definition of deceit, the action or practice of concealing or misrepresenting the truth for the purpose of misleading, making others believe something that is not true. So now when we're looking at the words of deceit, we're seeing that those are more of the action steps that are taken towards that frequency and vibration of illusions, of this practice of untruth. In all these definitions, we're seeing that the key aspect is that opposite polarity of being true. So what is the definition of truth? The quality or state of being true. That which is in accordance with reality. The real facts about something. Doing and being in God's will. The self-expression of God. So when you type in the word truth, you get a number of varying definitions. And this is something that we really need to get more solidified on. What does it really mean to be in truth? Well, what is truth? What is this idea of truth? Well, if you listen to our Hermetic discussion, you have already known that all truths are but half-truths. We have to be careful when we start using some of these words. For example, when we say truth and the real facts about something, well, we have a scientific process. And this scientific process is good. It's made a lot of great contributions to the world, but it has limited us at the same time. There are a lot of good aspects when we start to try to dive deeper into things, but we also miss many aspects. The intellect is like a knife. Our scientific process is more of us dissecting things little by little, diving in closer and closer, dissecting it, cutting it open, looking inside of it, defining it, creating all these different definitions for things. But that doesn't get us to a real understanding of things. For example, I think the best example comes from Sadhguru. If you were to cut your mother open, would you know your mother? That's the scientific process. We cut open individuals, information, things, and we dive in and we look at all the blood cells, all the organs, all the veins, all the things that kept things functioning in a type of way in this physical perspective. But by doing this, do we know who our mother was? Do we know her personality? Do we know her upbringing, the contributions she made to the world, the food she liked, the things she enjoyed, her hobbies, her potential that she could become? All I'm saying is when we start diving into certain aspects of our knowledge and ideologies, we have to really be careful that we don't close ourselves off. I feel that is a hard aspect about the scientific principles that we use. But even through their own logic, there's some things that will just be dismissed, even if it follows certain types of principles. This is why we're also seeing that there are two sides to everything. You have articles of scientific information saying that masturbation is good for your health. And at the same time, you have other articles saying masturbation is going to fuck you up. This is just throughout everything. Whether it comes to body positivity, the mental health aspects versus the physical aspects, that you can be 300 pounds and still be as healthy as somebody 150 pounds. And it just goes deeper because there's so many different ways that we can manipulate information. If we're comparing a 300-pound person to a 150-pound person who takes steroids, smokes cigarettes, eats, drinks alcohol, then yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're probably maybe might be at the same type of health standards if we're looking that objective lens. But when we start diving deeper into it, then we can clearly say that your body needs to be taken care of. Eating healthy foods, having proper exercise is vital for the longevity of your health. And though I'm putting that out there, just know that White Wolf is not a doctor, so drop that. Don't try to sue me for scientific or medical advice. So the definition that I'm going to use to solidify my understanding of truth is communicating the quality, state of being, or self-expression of one's current understanding while being in accordance with God's will. This is why we have to break everything down in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Because when we start using terminology like God's will, then we actually understand what we're saying. As already expressed in the 7 Deadly Sins series, we talked about sinning, things that bring us further from God's will. My definition being anything that closes off our energetic pathways, because this is what is bringing us further away from connecting to the divine realm and with God. Being in accordance with God's will is everything that is bringing us closer, opening up our energetic pathways, allowing that connection to grow deeper, further. Everything is energy. And so when we start really understanding that God is energy, and that God is not just this fabricated type of construct that we've created, but is real, and that God is everything, and that we're God, and that we're inside of God, and that everything is God. it starts becoming more of seeing the subjectiveness of this plane of reality that we're living in. That there are certain rules and regulations that govern this plane. And as we live, take actions, proper thoughts, organizing our emotions in the proper manner, these are bringing us closer to connecting with God, to the divine realm, bringing down and channeling divine energy. When we're talking about truth and lies, this is dealing with the communication aspect of ourselves. As we already know that there's opposite opposing poles to everything. Truth and lies being the opposing forces of each other. One being in accordance with the natural laws, the other going against them. Closing off our pathways. Truth opening up our pathways. And so it's just starting to understand more, especially when we talk about these moral applications and these why are we behaving in certain types of ways? Why should I follow certain types of virtues? It all matters. It is all energy. Energy do not lie. What you putting out into the universe is not a lie. And so it's either going against the natural laws that are already in place by the subjectiveness of this plane of reality, or is going with them, helping us grow closer to God. Now, it's not as black and white as I'm saying here, because we all know that there's many different situations that are extremely ambiguous, that you had to make hard calls, that there are a lot of gray areas. And so, I think it's very important that no matter how we define things, we get a clear understanding of how we're talking, but we don't become so fixed in our ways that we don't leave room to grow in our understanding. We have to be able to be firmly planted, but also be flexible. When we receive new information and we grow as individuals and we enter different perspectives of life that changes how we see the world, we have to be able to change our belief systems. Being too fixated in any one type of belief system, I feel, is detrimental because it leaves a lack of growth. We need to be able to always expand ourselves, never closing ourselves off. Being solidified in the point we have stable grounding in the way we are talking and understanding and defining things. But when that new information comes, because the only thing that is certain in this world is that change is continuous. And when we start to change, we must be able to accept the new information that comes. We must be able to be like, you know what? That makes more sense. That opens me up more than my current understanding. And so it's okay to be like, I want to change my belief system. I want to change my current understanding of things. So that way I become more open to the limitless possibilities that are all around me, that is in this plane of reality. So ultimately, to overcome lies, we use truth. Now, why do we lie? As we've already talked about, life is not black and white. There are many different shades in between, and there are some hard times you go through, and you gotta make some hard decisions sometimes. And you're not always gonna get 100% right off the back. It's hard to listen to that moral compass at first, especially if you have a lot of different individuals whispering in your ear all day, every day. But when you start to realize on this journey of mastery, on opening up our energy pathways, as we overcome the fear, as we start to change our lives by making better decisions that take us away from the guilt, as we start to forgive ourselves and everybody involved, as we start to heal our heart and spread compassion, we realize more and more and more it doesn't matter what anybody freaking thinks. Yeah, you might have done some messed up things to people, And you gotta tell them the truth. And it's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. But the thing is, we live by God's rules. We have human laws that, you know, we got some good laws, we got some bad laws. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. But a lot of our laws don't follow God's laws. And that's really what matters. Because no matter what the freak you did, when you are honest and work on yourself and you follow God, God will put you on that path of redemption. You might go through hell and high water. You might go through the valley of the shadow of death. But God will be with you every step of that journey. As you rebuild, as you grow, as you see in yourself that by being honest, being truthful, it didn't matter what anybody freaking thought. You start to find the purity in yourself. You start finding God talking to you every day. You start seeing that there's so much more and that it never mattered what anybody thought. It mattered how you conducted yourself, how you chose to live your life. And now you're living by God's rules. That being said, before we get into our stories, let us talk about illusions. Let us first identify and define illusions. If you type in the definition of illusion into the Google search, you come up with definitions like a thing that is or is likely to be wrongly perceived or interpreted by the senses, a deceptive appearance or impression, a false idea or belief, something that deceives by producing a false or misleading impression of reality. And really, I kind of like all these types of definitions. I think they really home in on what is the illusion. Just as lies dealt more with the communication aspect of deceit, illusions deals with deceptive appearance or impression, that false idea or belief. When we start talking about illusions, we have to understand that right out the gate, we are born into illusions through these concepts of duality and separateness. From the teachings of our parents, of our school systems, of our nations. There are so many different illusions that we're just born into, and that is purposeful. We were sent to this planet without that remembrance of choosing to come here, without that remembrance of our past lives, without that remembrance of the spirit world. That is a very intentional process, one that is going to change in the future. But as the time is now, we are born straight up into illusions. And in order to really overcome illusions, we have to start to develop and tap into our intuition. Intuition is that knowing, the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. As we start to grow ourselves and we start to follow God and we start to open up our energy, we're tapping more into our own divinity because we're all divine beings. We start to tap into our different lifetimes. We start tapping into the spirit world. We start tapping into all these different aspects of knowledge, all these different shifts in perspective, all these eye-opening, just mind-blowing events and experiences that live within inside of us. That's why for us to change the external world, we have to work our internal world first. Everything we see is just a mirror back to us of how we are on our inside, how we are perceiving the world from the inside. Our internal world controls our external world. So that's why our beliefs, our definitions, our foundations for how we start to identify and go about our lives. But because of all these different illusions, a lot of times we get thrown off our path. A lot of times we were sent here to learn certain types of lessons. We made agreements before even getting on this plane. And it's starting to wrap our mind around that there's always been a reason for everything. There's always been a purpose for everything. Everything that has happened to you, everything that has happened to me has been for us for one reason or another. No matter how traumatic, no matter how sad, no matter how horrible the experience. And it's through seeing these illusions, seeing past these illusions, connecting to our divinity, developing our knowing in different types of ways, that we are able to maintain our sovereignty as we live our life now. The biggest problems we have with illusion right now is that everything at this current time is setting us up so that we finally are sick and tired of being sick and tired. All these different illusions that are in every aspect of our lives, all these different types of setups that are closing the energy around the planet and within ourselves. These is all intentional. This is all purposeful. It is all for a reason. Because we're about to go into a whole new stage where life is so freaking amazing and beautiful. Because we have learned to start opening up our energy and to start accessing these different levels of information that is inside of us. Start accessing God in a whole new way. The divinity that is inside of us, that is us, and bringing it out into this world. Illusions go deep, and they come in many forms. And even in our society, they'll try to say that you're delusional if you have different types of belief systems than other individuals. It's really getting solidified in yourself. That's why that intuition is so important, because now you're learning to trust yourself. You're learning to trust God in such a different type of way, of an instant knowing. You don't have to question it. It's like you have the answers and you see that you have the answers. And by expressing and showing and bringing your gifts and talents, life is a journey. We're telling a story, and it is unraveling this story inch by inch, little by little. And this story is going to have highs and lows. It's going to have challenges and monsters. It's going to have victories and defeats. Life is a story. Life is a journey. And it's really learning that we can enjoy this journey. The purpose is to enjoy the journey at every step of the way. Not just at the end, but in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. All of it. Enjoying every freaking step. And so we ask, why are there so many illusions? The thing is, there's been a lot of false beliefs for a very long time. And certain people in power get a certain type of level of information. They can use it against people. And like I said, we're just telling the story. And it is getting past these illusions. That's really the story right now. Is getting past these illusions. To have the light, you have to have the dark. Throughout all the suffering of humankind, it's finally hitting that point of realization inside of ourselves that we had to go through all of it in order to learn multiple different lessons throughout entire lifetimes. And now that we have learned our lessons, and now that we're tapping into our energy, we're opening up, we're connecting to God. Now is the time that we're able to make this planet, this world, something so beautiful by channeling God's unconditional love into this world. We're telling a whole new story that is just going to be freaking awesome. And so now let's go into our stories. So, story time. The biggest thing about lies is it blocks us in so many different ways. When we're on that path of continuous growth, there can be no growth. You hit a point of stagnation when you lie, when you hold on to lies. The biggest lie that I had faced was coming clean and honest about not being faithful to my ex-wife. And it was through the journey of self-development, through the journey of healing, that I finally got to a point where I was strong enough. Because let me tell you, this lie was something I was prepared to take to my grave, boy. I was prepared to die with this lie. Until you get to that point where you're like, oh snap, I've done so much work on myself that I can't hold it in anymore. And you'll feel it inside of you. You'll feel when it's the right time. It will be very nerve-wracking because you'll know that you have to come clean. And it's about the way you do it. Having the integrity, the honor, the courage to really sit the other person down and come clean about everything. It is so powerful. It is so emotional. It is so next level that it blows your mind. The power of truth blows your freaking mind. When talking about illusions, I feel for my life, breaking free of the biggest illusion for me was the concept that I had to be a certain type of way. The concept that nation had to fight nation. That there had to be a winner and a loser. The concept that I am only human. Realizing that I am human. A divine being. That there is so much more to all of us. That we're not just these tiny little pebbles that got lost here on this planet, but that we were placed here with mission, with purpose, that we chose to come here, that there is so much amazing things that we're going to do, and that we have the power inside of us to do, and that all of it comes from inside of us. The illusion of cracking that wall of limitations. That one took a long time. It just takes steps. It takes going at your own pace, breaking down the walls by opening up your energy. It gets to a point where it's so undeniable. It is so freaking undeniable to you that it's just like, how the freak have we not been talking about this all this time? It's like once you work on yourself to a certain point and in a certain type of manner, and you get connected to God, and you get connected to your spirit teams, and you get connected to your divinity, it's like there is no way that this should not, there's no way that this is not the reality, that this is not the truth. that this is not who we really are. It might be hard to explain, but because of that growth, that connection, there is without a shadow of doubt inside of yourself, no matter what you face, that you're not something so spectacular and so amazing. And even opening up to that point, you gotta keep it open. When we weaken ourselves sometimes, it's easy to fall back into that place of unworthiness. It's easy to feel like, what's the point of what I'm doing? It's easy to feel like, am I good enough? And time again, it's remembering. It's seeing that God reminds you that, hey, don't forget, you're strong as F. You're a divine being. There's nothing that can stop you. And it's just staying in that. And yeah. And so, I'm going to leave it there, YouTube family. I mixed I made this episode with both lies and illusions because they're so close to each other when we start talking about the definitions. Lies being that deceptive communication, and illusions being that deceptive appearance. We overcome lies with truth. We overcome illusions with intuition. To tap into our intuition, we get connected with God and our divinity deeper and deeper. And we start from the bottom and work our way up. And by the time you get to a certain level, it is without a shadow of a doubt who you are. And so, thank you everybody for sticking around to the end. I hope this episode was beneficial. Take some time, head over to the Stand store, type in White Wolf 719. You can get yourself a free Warriors of Light leveling guide. This leveling guide is going to help you get from level 1 to level 3. As you already know, level 3, man, you got this. You with God. You walking your purpose. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there, YouTube family. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you have an amazing, blessed, and magical day. Remember that God is always with you. Trust and trust. No matter how it may appear, you gotta trust. And it will be hard, but trust anyways. Because circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. Hashtag Bashar. So trust. Trust in God. Trust that God is leading you. That you are going to make it. And until the next exciting training session, take it easy. Love and light leads the way. Have a great day.